Hi, everyone. Welcome to Crew Inland Empire's coffee break with Norette Walls, our president, who's going to be interviewing our 2021 Crew Network president, Tiffany English. This is going to be a wonderful get together, so I hope you have your pen and paper ready to ask questions and jot down notes and everything that we can learn from Tiffany. So, Norette, I'm going to kick it off to you.
Thank you, Pam. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Crew Inland Empire Coffee Break. Today, our guest is Tiffany English. Tiffany is the principal at Ware Malcolm, their San Diego office. Ware Malcolm is an award-winning interior design firm providing planning, architecture, interior design, graphic design, civil engineering services for commercial and corporate clients worldwide. Ware Malcolm has 25 offices throughout the US, Canada, Panama, and Mexico. Tiffany is an unbelievable person, and when you get to know her and have a chance to talk with her and spend time with her like I have, it is just incredible, the amount of wealth of knowledge that she has and the amazing, inspiring person that she is. And she has a list of various industry awards that she has won, and I'm not going to read them all to you because we would be here literally past an hour, but I'll pick off some of the top ones. San Diego Business Journal's most influential business leaders. She's Daily Transcript's most influential women leaders in San Diego in 2019. Southern California's most powerful women in commercial real estate by Real Estate Forum in 2017. Connected Woman of Influence, she's the Women's Advocate of the Year in 2015. Crew San Diego chapter, most deals done in 2011. Crew San Diego Networker of the Year in 2010. And I can tell you the list goes on and on. But as you can see, Tiffany is an exceptional leader. She is focused on the success of her clients, her colleagues, and her team. She is the Crew Network president-elect, and we are very excited to have Tiffany here today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a long, thank you. I feel humbled, and it's a little crazy to hear when somebody says all those nice things about you, but I love it. Thank you. So thank you so much. So I know that, Nora, did you have more? Did you want me to jump right into some of the questions that you sent me?
Why don't we talk about some of the questions a little bit? So why don't we start with Ware Malcolm? How did you start there, and specifically kind of day-to-day duties for you? What are you doing day-to-day right now?
Well, so my career with Ware Malcolm, I actually was in the San Francisco Bay Area for about 6 years. I worked at a couple of well-known international firms there prior to joining Ware Malcolm. And it's funny because, well, not funny, but it was a learning experience for me. In 2001, I was actually working at a firm in Oakland, California, that I really enjoyed working with. We did a lot of international work. I was actually laid off about 6 weeks after 9/11. So for those of you who've been around long enough to know, we had obviously a little downturn, or what they often called the dot-com bubble burst in 2001. I was laid off from the firm that I was at, which I'd never been laid off before, or fired or anything like that. So it was devastating to me. And at the time I was actually pregnant. So it was, for those of you who have been in that situation, the emotions are high, and I definitely took it very hard. But, it was something out of my control, a little bit of the same way I kind of feel today in today's environment, a little out of control, things that I couldn't control. And, I actually quickly tried to pivot and try to find a new job, and wasn't easy at that time. And I came across a firm at the time, was Ware Malcolm, and they had 4 offices and probably about 70 employees, but they were doing a lot of industrial work, a lot of manufacturing, industrial distribution. Wasn't exactly in the lane that I was used to, but they were hiring. They were one of the only firms. And being pregnant at the time, I made a decision, which I'm sure a lot of you have been in those positions too, where I made a decision that was safe, right? So I tried to find something that was going to be safe for me and my family. And as I was, growing my family, and I joined Ware Malcolm, and in my head, I told myself, this will be temporary. And then I'll go back to the fancy design firm in, in San Francisco when things get better. And that was, obviously 19 years ago. So here I am. The reason why I think that I found myself to be such a great fit with Where Malcolm, and you, as Norette said, we're now 25 offices and 650 employees, was the entrepreneurial spirit of our company. They really never held me back. I was lucky enough to have some great sponsors in the leadership team that often encouraged me to continue to look at new ways to build business and grow and be a great architect and designer. At the same time, I would say, well, I'm doing business in Sacramento, let's open an office there. And they'd say, okay, let's do it. What's the plan? So it was just kind of gave me the ability to use my skill set and what I wanted to do and my, passion for the business to really kind of grow it. So I was lucky enough to be a part of that and the growth of the company. And so that kind of leads me into, where I'm at today. So my day-to-day is, I started off at Where Malcolm as a job captain, project manager, senior project manager, kind of moved my way up, and relocated to San Diego probably about 13 years ago when they wanted to build the office down here. And we actually have 2 offices in San Diego. And it was an opportunity for me to grow. And I continue to grow the team. We have about 55 people. So my day-to-day is I still am involved in project work, generally in the upfront. I do the business development. I oversee our team. I oversee our project direction and a lot of our projects to start them out. I have an amazing team. I wouldn't be where I'm at today without my team. And I'm fully consider myself a servant leader. It's one of the reasons why I'm highly involved in crew. And, my day-to-day is touching base with my team, continuously looking at projects and, working with them, connecting with my clients or future clients. And, just kind of, trying to do as much as I can to make sure I'm making true, authentic connections and doing business with clients and vendors and consultants that I really enjoy working with. So those are kind of my steadfast, philosophies on how I do business. And, that's really been, for me, is the most important thing. So, that's what I spend most of my days doing, is kind of developing the relationships that I have and truly giving it 100% of me. So anybody I develop a relationship with or I meet or I connect with, I really try to make sure that it's authentic, and I give everybody the same amount of respect and time, no matter, who it is and, where they're coming from.
It sounds like you have your hands full and you're definitely busy day to day running a team and creating the next project and seeing it through. So that's very exciting. So when did your relationship start with Crew San Diego?
Well, I actually have to jump back to, I think you heard me mention that I opened our office in Sacramento at the time, has now combined with our Northern California office, but I actually joined Crew in Crew Sacramento. So that was the first chapter that I joined. And, I have to be honest with you, I stumbled into Crew, and it really came down to, I was, building an office in Sacramento. I had 2 children, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I was carting them off to different daycares and preschools and trying to run my business. And I happened to, come across a broker a woman broker, Kara, who I still know really well. I think she caught me on a bad day, one of those days, when, you have one of those breakdowns and you just say, oh, I can't do all of this, and I'm sure all of you know how that feels. So she kind of caught me on that day and, tried to make me feel better in many ways, but then she said, you really need to join Crew. And I was like, what's Crew at the time? And that was in 2004. So, it was, she kind of just, put out that hand, and it was the best decision I ever made. I found this group and this organization that not only I developed a network of people that I was starting to do business with, but also just, the camaraderie and being around other people who made me feel important, and also just were there for me no matter what, you know, good and bad, and offered resources and tools for me to develop professionally, but also personally. And Norette, like I love connecting with people and hearing people's stories and knowing about others. And Crew kind of gave me that opportunity, along with being able to do work in business. So it was kind of like the best of both worlds. So I joined that chapter, and obviously then, like everyone else, was voluntold and being on a lot of committees, and then joining the board. And so it was easy. When I was relocated to San Diego, the first call I made was actually a woman that I had met at convention, who was from the Crew San Diego chapter. Her name's Allie Simpson. And we happened to sit next to each other at one of the guest speakers sessions, and got to know each other and traded cards. And little did I know that she was going to be my first call when I got to San Diego, but she was. And of course, the moment I called her, it was just open arms, and how can I help, and how can this chapter help, and what can we do to help you build business? And it was so nice to be able to relocate somewhere not really knowing anyone, and then just immediately having a network behind me. And it wasn't just work, that they were helping me with. It was, where's the best area to live, and what schools should I be looking at? And it was so much more. And so, again, I joined committees and pretty much did every position on the board, and, really dedicated a lot of my time to helping other women in the organization as I was helped, in my early days in Crew.
Would you say that then that would be probably your aha moment for Crew, like your, oh, I drank the Kool-Aid moment?
Yeah, I think there was a couple. It was one, that first, kind of moment with Kara in Sacramento, and then, Allie here, making those true connections, and really knowing that people have that authentic approach to everything, right? Just really wanting to help each other. And, that's, we all know it's difficult in our industry in general, for anyone, male, female, it's difficult in our industry to, it's competitive, and there's a lot of different things going on in our industry, and, lots of different avenues and lots of different people to connect with. So, having that, that support system right away was really key for me. And it was definitely, I would say, two aha moments for me. One is the one in Sacramento, and then the other was getting down here to San Diego and immediately having that same support system. And, at the time, I'll tell you, with both of those, I didn't even really know Crew Network. I didn't know what Crew Network really was. I'd heard Crew Network, and I went to the conventions, and I didn't have a really strong grasp about Crew Network. I was very immersed into the local chapter. So moving from one region to another, it kind of just expanded my thought process in, wow, Crew's bigger than just Sacramento, right? Or San Diego. And I really, as I was going through that and making more connections with others, I started to see, wow, Crew Network is really a global group of women and men that really support the same mission. So that was really kind of, for me, it was eye-opening to relocate and be a part of two different chapters. And I really enjoyed that.
Very interesting. So what positions then have you held on the San Diego board? Have you been chapter president for San Diego? You've been on various committees. How many years did you spend doing that before you went for your board position for Crew Network?
I would say that I did quite a few positions. I started in membership, and I did that in both the chapters. And for me, I found that to be very beneficial, because it allowed me to connect with new members, and also with, existing members, and just getting to know all the different people. And as you know, that's really what I love. So I really enjoyed, I did membership. I started on the membership committees, and then eventually became the chair for membership, in both Sacramento and in San Diego. And in San Diego, I kind of did the rounds. So I did membership, and then, I moved to special events. And then I kind of just made my way through all the different board positions until I was chapter president. So, you know, I was, I think a couple times I was encouraged to go after the presidency a little earlier. And for me, and just because the way I am, I kind of felt like I wanted to know what all the positions were like before I became the president, so that I could really understand what it was that I was leading as, you know, leading the group. I wanted to understand what it was, that the work that had to be done in each of those different chair positions. So I spent a lot of time, you know, really trying to make sure I did my rounds and being a part of every position, and then became chapter president. It was funny because it was a little bit of a, you know, anticlimactic. Like when after I was president, I was like, how can I still stay involved? You know, what's going to happen? And that's when I really decided that, okay, well, maybe it's time for me to really see what this whole crew network is about, right? Like the bigger part of the organization. And I actually, you know, this was probably after about 7 years being on, you know, board positions, and being chapter president. And when I was the past president, I actually applied for a crew network position, on the MEC board. So the Membership Education Committee, which is, they develop a lot of the sessions that you see at Summit or at convention. So, you know, and I would say I was pretty timid and a little quiet on that, just because I was really trying to observe and see what it was about. But I actually, the first year I applied, I did not get accepted on a committee. And at first I kind of said, okay, well, maybe I'm just not cut out to be on the crew network committee or board, or, you know, maybe I'm just not there, right? Like I see all these women up on stage and, you know, I'm thinking, I'm not there in my career. I'm not, you know, seasoned enough or experienced enough. And so, but then the next year came around and I said to myself, I'm just going to nominate myself again. I'm going to go for it. Like what I've had.
There's no harm here. Just go for it, right?
Right. The worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no to me again, and I'll figure it out. But I actually made it on the committee the second time around, and then proceeded to do membership education. I applied for the industry research committee, where I was part of the benchmark study and the white papers, and I actually did that committee for a few years. Loved it, absolutely loved it. Loved really understanding and knowing what was happening in our industry, knowing the numbers, you know, what was going on, you know, unconscious bias. And it was very fascinating. And, you know, I really enjoyed being a part of that. And again, it was one of those things, once I kind of went through that for a few years. So basically I was on those committees for about 3 or 4 years, on network. And then, you know, again, decided that I was going to just go ahead and apply for a board position. And I nominated myself, and I see no shame in that, because I think a lot of times as women, we feel insecure that, you know, well, if nobody else sees it in me, then maybe I shouldn't do it. I just got to that point, I think, in my career, my life, that I wasn't going to wait anymore for someone to tell me to go do something. That, you know, if I felt the desire, I was just going to go for it. So, and I think that has a lot to do with just my company too, and the way I work, and my company's always encouraged me to, you know, just go for it. So that really influenced my ability to advocate for myself, you know, and really just go for it. So
I think so many times as women, we have to stand up for ourselves first before we wait for others to stand up for us. And if we're willing to stand up for ourselves first, it's amazing what happens after that, because you find that people will go, yes, absolutely, I want to support you, I want to help you, I want to do that. But we have to be willing to take the challenge and step out of the box ourselves. We can't wait for someone really to push us all the way to the forefront. We have to be willing to take that step forward first sometimes as individuals, I think.
Absolutely. And I think too that we're often, you know, afraid to fail, right? And most of us want to be 100%, right? You've heard the statistics, you know, a job posting goes up and there's the long list of all the requirements for the job. And as women, we want to check every single box off, right? And I'm not going to pick on you, Scott, but you know, you're the lone male on this call, I think. But you know, a lot of men would look at it and check a couple things and say, I'm going for it, right? So you've all heard that story many times. And I think that I started saying to myself, I'm gonna check that box. You know, I'm 2 boxes and I'm gonna go for it. And I didn't get on the board the first time I applied. I nominated myself. And again, I applied the same thought process that I did when I was applying for the committees. I just went for it again, and I did get on the board that second time around. And I was ecstatic, and I was nervous and excited. And being on the board has taught me a lot. One, about being on a board, which I think at the juncture of my career and my life, I'm on the board of the YMCA locally. I'm involved with a couple of other organizations. I just really feel the desire to give back. But being on a board, takes a different mindset. And, especially on a larger board that oversees a lot of different regions and chapters and membership. So I just was excited about what I was going to learn. And I've learned a lot in, the last 2 years. And then obviously, that I was somebody nominated me for the president-elect position. And I have to be honest with you, at first I thought, no, I'm not ready. Because as you know, now that I've told you, I'm the kind of person that wants to try everything out before I get there. And I had a long discussion with another crew member who just said, what do you have to lose? This is how you're going to learn. Like, just go for it. And I thought, I probably won't get it because I've been through that before, but why not? And so I was actually so surprised. And I decided that when I went in for the interview for president-elect, which is an interview with other members across, our global membership that have been selected for the nominating committee, I decided I was just going to go and I was going to totally be myself. And I was going to talk about what's important to me about this organization. I wasn't going in there trying to say what I thought they wanted to hear. I went in and I was totally authentic because I said, what do I have to lose? And I actually think that, it was the best approach. Becoming president-elect and being president, I am so nervous and excited all at the same time. And I'm especially more nervous because of what's going on right now in the world, and where are we going to be at next year. And, I know that a lot of people are going to be looking to me for a lot of things, and I don't think I have all the answers. So, I just hope that I can provide some semblance of connection and authenticity about, who we are as an organization, who I am, and what I'm hoping to see for our organization, which most of diversity, inclusion, and equity are a huge part of what I have been working for a long time.
That's incredible. So for this question here, we have so many new members that have just come into our chapter personally. It's hard for people to see the big scope of what Crew Network is if you haven't been to a convention or been to a summit. It's hard when you just have your local chapter. And being that we have, what is it, over 72 chapters now throughout? 77, all right, throughout the world, globally now. And we have, is it 13,000 members now? Have we reached that mark yet?
Yeah, a little over 12,000 plus or minus, Yeah.
It's incredible the amount of chapters and the scope of this organization across the globe. It's just insane if you think about the ability and all the different things that we have through Crew Biz, and being able to reach out and talk to people and have that information readily available to you. It's a lot more than just a local chapter network that you are associated with. It's, globally, you have the ability to reach out to all these different people around the globe, which is fantastic. So what would be your best advice for new crew members then that are just joining a chapter right now?
Well, I think, and I think I saw somebody put on the chat too, and I'll hit their question about what is the difference between a crew regional chapter and what is Crew Network. So let me start with that, because I think it's important to understand what that is. So we have 77 chapters, and Crew Network is basically a guiding group of a diverse selected group of people across our entire organization. So if you look at our board for Crew Network that oversees that guiding force for all the chapters, it is a cross section of all of our chapters. So you'll see people from, the DC chapter, the San Diego chapter, Toronto, from Canada, Charlotte, Texas, we are a cross section of our membership that are on the board. And what we do is we try to, as a board, discuss the overall mission of our organization as a whole. Like, what is our main mission? And our main mission is to advance women globally in the commercial real estate industry. That's our main mission, right? So we want to make sure women are continually, coming up in the pipeline, and that's what foundation is about, which I can talk about that later. But it's about helping and supporting and networking amongst women to help us all help each other grow and advance in the commercial real estate industry. So as the network board, what we try to do is we allow chapters. It's just how our country is, right? You have our federal government, and then you have your local, right? So your local governments, your local chapters are self-sustaining. You are there to do what's best for your region and your membership locally. As a network, we're trying to not tell you what to do, but we're here to be a resource and a tool so that chapters, and as new chapters come up, some chapters are much more, established, and others are newer. So as the newer ones come up, it's our job to help make sure that they know what the resources are, or how to connect with other chapters, or, they don't have to, develop it all new. There's information and guidance for them. So as a network, we try to continually remind the chapters locally what our overall mission is, but allow you to develop what you need to regionally. So it's, we're not here to be oversee the way you run your chapters or anything like that, but we're here to guide you and make sure that you're continually moving on the same pathway and the same mission as the organization. So that's really important, so that we can make sure that people don't feel alone, right? And you're not going to always make everybody happy, right? So what we try to do is understand what the majority of the membership and the overall membership needs are, and try to address those in a bigger picture format. And I would say that being on the board has really taught me that, to be more big picture, right? Because I could easily be like, well, this is what we need in San Diego, so this is what I should push for. But I have to think bigger than that, right? Because what they need in San Diego may not be what you need in Inland Empire, and that has been the best part of what I've learned, or what they need in Canada, right? They have a totally different system there. So everything has to be thought through and discussed, and we have lots of discussions, and we talk about what we see. As you know, I'm your chapter liaison, so we're all board members are assigned chapter liaisons. So as a chapter liaison, it gives me a chance to work with each one of the regional chapters and understand what your needs are, what you're looking for, your feedback, and overall perspective. And I have all of the California chapters and Northern Nevada, so there's 9 chapters total. And what I try to do is listen to what your requirements are, what your needs are, what your challenges are, what is successful, and then I try to connect all of you. And I know a lot of you have connected quite a bit with other chapters, and I try to bring that to the table every time I have a discussion with the board about what your perspectives are, and that way it helps influence and guides our initiatives and what we're trying to do towards our mission. So hopefully that explains it enough so everybody understands what Crew Network is, and why it's such an important aspect, right? Because we want to unify our organization in a way that represents the mission that we're trying to achieve, but allow everybody to have their own regional perspective and flavor.
That makes perfect sense, Tiffany. Absolutely. So last question I have for you, and then we will share some 5 fun facts about Tiffany, which I think are hysterical, by the way. I will ask this one last question. So what is your best advice for older members that are still involved in Crew?
So, we talk about this a lot, because newer members are coming in and they're trying to make new connections, right? You're trying to, let me start, actually, I want to, really quickly, you asked me about the new members too. So let me hit new members and your legacy members. So new members, I think you get out of the organization as much as you put in. So, Yeah, it's totally, there's always been discussions where people say, oh, well, I got nothing out of it. Well, part of it is how much do you put into it, right? We're a networking organization. So what you put into it is networking and being able to reach out. And it can be the little things about learning how to walk into a room that is intimidating and being able to walk up to somebody and say, hi, I'm Tiffany. I'm with Where Malcolm, and who are you and what do you do, and that type of thing. So that can be difficult for a lot of people, but this organization is about that. So really kind of stepping outside of your comfort zone for new members and really reaching out and knowing that it's a safe place, right? Every one of your crew members and are going to reach out their hand and say, hi, are you new? Let me introduce you to this person. Let me introduce you to this person. So I think as a membership, we need to be better at asking for what we want and being okay with the fear or the intimidation and kind of just saying, this is, I want to just go out and meet people. So put in as much as you can, and you'll get a lot out of it. So don't let fear or intimidation stop you from reaching out, connecting. They used to always say, and I'm sure, Norette, you remember this, they used to always say there's never a cold call in crew. It's always warm call. So I have reached out to members. I have a project that was in Philadelphia, and I really don't know anyone in the Philadelphia market, but I immediately went on crew, and went through the membership directory and found, I was actually looking specifically for an engineer. I went and found the crew member. I just picked up the phone and called her and said, hey, can you help me out? And in honesty, she was like, well, we can't do that, but here's another connection, another crew member that I can connect you with. So that's the other thing, is you may do business regionally, but most business is global. So even if you're only working in your region, people come into your region. So if you are connecting with others outside of your membership or your specific regional membership, you might see that people will reach out to you and they bring business into town, and you could be working with somebody that maybe is not local to your region, but is coming into town. So take all the opportunities to reach out. And the other thing I encourage new members to do too is when you're on these type of calls or sessions, I would always ask questions. So I remember when I was younger, I'd hear the brokers talk about cap rates, and and I was like, what does that mean? And I remember emailing one of the women brokers, and I was like, can I take you out to lunch and can you explain to me what cap rates mean? Because I want to know what that means. I was in my little world of design. So I wanted to start understanding real estate as a big picture. So even if I am not doing brokerage deals, I wanted to understand what they were going through so that when I did my job, I could help affect whatever they were doing and make them successful. So don't be afraid to ask if you don't understand. And if you want to know more about what somebody else in your group is doing, just do it. Ask. Tell me about your job. What is it like? What do you do? What's the financing about? Why do you do this for financing? So it's really good to make sure you understand as a whole commercial real estate, and you've got a network to do it. For the legacy members, what's key is that you are that resource. You are that historical knowledge. You are what newer members and, members kind of in the middle that have been around a while, they want to learn. People want to learn. People want to understand. And I think as a member that's been around for a long time, I see it as it's a duty that I love to do, but our duty is to mentor those coming up in our industry, making sure that they are given, and I'm sure you've heard this before, where some women will say, well, I had to work extra hard, and I had to put in those extra hours, and I had to climb that ladder, and nobody helped me, right? We've heard that before, right? Like I had to do it all on my own. But my wish is that I don't want anybody younger than me to have to do what I had to do to get where I'm at. I want them to be able to call me and say, I don't know how to deal with this situation. This is what's happened. Or I have a client that's very difficult. What can I do? I want them to be able to call me, and I want to say, this is what you can do, right? Maybe those calls I didn't have available to me at the beginning, but where you feel maybe like scared to say that to somebody. But I think just remember, the legacy members, it is our job to help the other women advance. So we need to be there for them. So I encourage legacy members to be involved in the mentorship programs, be on advisory committees, even if it's an informal mentorship, reach out to some of the younger members and help them get to a place where they don't feel like they have to fight as hard as maybe some of us had in the beginning, and help them make great decisions and help them be successful. So that's what I encourage your legacy members to do, is be involved. And I know that they're busier, so do it in a way that they can. Set up mentor calls, be a part of the mentorship program. I think some chapters do emerging leaders. Be a part of that, you know, be a part of the bigger picture.
We do a fantastic job of that in our chapter, I will say, thanks to so many of our great members that we have, like Pam and Jennifer and Scott. It's amazing, you know, so many people on this call today, Marlene and Elizabeth and, you know, Susanna, they're always willing to step out and help somebody and explain something and welcome someone in, whether it be somebody new or somebody who's been in our chapter for a while that we just haven't had that opportunity to connect with on that level. So we try and do that so much in, you know, in the Inland Empire, because we're a huge geographic area, and, you know, trying to reach out and be everywhere at once, we can't always do that, but you can always pick up a phone and you can always reach out and, you know, talk to somebody, see how they're doing,
Right.
find out how we can help them in business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Tiffany, let's share 5 fun facts about Tiffany. All right. So I think these are fabulous, by the way. She's lived in 7 countries by the time she was 17. Okay, so list all 7 for us, because you didn't list it for me here.
Okay. I lived in Mauritania, Gambia, and Swaziland, all in Africa. I basically was there from when I was 3 till I was about 11. I was born in Vietnam and lived there till I was 3. Then Africa, and then I lived in Japan, and then I lived in New Delhi, India, and that's where I graduated from high school. And then I've lived here in the United States.
Unbelievable. So this is really cool. You met your husband in middle school at the American school in Japan in 7th grade, and you reconnected in college. So did that have anything to do with Facebook, or you just both happened to be at the same college? How?
No, it's a funny story. So we had 7th and 8th grade homeroom together, and it's always a joke because we still have the picture, and he's actually standing behind me. We have some great hairstyles. I had a very beautiful feathered haircut at the time. We actually, my best friend from the American school in Japan moved back to the United States after 8th grade also. And her and I obviously stayed in touch, and she happened to move to the town in Northern California near where my husband's family had moved. So they stayed connected. So when I moved back, we had a mini reunion of quite a few of us who had gone to school in Japan together. And she was like, we should invite Andy. And I was like, Andy, and she invited Andy, and then him and I have been together ever since. So we've been married 22 years, and we have 2 children. My son's just about to graduate next week and hopefully go off to college, or he may be doing college in my dining room. But yeah, so we were able to reconnect again through connections, right? You keep those connections, and you never know what the world will bring you.
That's so true. So you were born in Saigon, Vietnam during the war, and you left when Saigon fell in April of 1975.
Correct.
So I'm sure you don't remember all of that, but I'm sure your family has interesting stories to tell you, and what an incredible journey that must have been for your family.
It definitely was. And my dad has some great stories, about that. So he actually took my mom, my sister, and I and strapped us on the bottom of a C-131 plane, for those of you who know what that military plane is, just to get us out of the country. And my dad actually stayed and was one of the people you've probably seen in shows, if you've seen anything about Vietnam, that stayed and, cleared out the embassy and did everything they could to help others get out. So that's kind of how that all went down. And actually, my dad is 80 now, my mom's 79, and we hired an author. My sister and I hired an author to document their story, their life stories, and actually, hopefully, we'll have those books to be coming out soon.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. So, books are interesting. It says here you read at least 1 book a week.
I do.
How do you find the time? And is it just like a 3-page book? Or do you listen on tape in the car? I really want to know, because I love to read and I can't ever find the time to finish anything.
So I actually do, I do have one audiobook always on my phone, so I listen to it when I'm in the car. I also love podcasts now, so they're getting in the way of my audiobooks, but so that's, you know, I've been kind of jumping all over the place with that, but I do listen to one audiobook a week if I can. Sometimes those last a little longer, and I do sometimes I listen to them before I go to bed and I fall asleep, so, you know, that can take a little longer. But I do on Saturday mornings, I'm an early riser. I get up about 5 a.m. every day, and on a weekend when I don't have something to do for work, I can get through a book before noon, because my family teases that sometimes when I am reading, I'm one of those people that, you know, I'll be cooking and reading and cooking and reading. And I just, when I get into a book, and I generally go through phases. Like there's sometimes when I'm just reading, you know, all these great books about personal development or professional development. And then a lot of my friends tease me because I love vampire books. I love the Sookie Stackhouse series, and I can read those. I could read 2 in a day. But you know, I've learned over the course of my career, my life, is that I used to I'd work on the weekends and I'd do certain things. Now I just really try to give myself some me time. So on the weekends, I really try to shut down, and I take that time to do something that I enjoy. And I love to read. I love to read. So it's something that I can read pretty fast now, but I do love to read, and it's just something that really kind of fulfills me.
That's important. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
You also are a painter. So do you paint one painting a week as well?
Okay, so I'm not a great painter, but I love to paint, and I watercolor. And I actually try to paint one small. I actually have these small postcard size watercolor things that I ordered on Amazon, and I have like the kids watercolor thing, and I paint one picture a day. And I give myself 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes they're really terrible paintings, but sometimes they turn into something beautiful, and then I'm like, wow, this is great. So I kind of give it myself, it's almost like some people meditate maybe in the morning. You know, I think for me it's meditation. I love it, but I do try to paint. Don't get me wrong, there's some days that I've missed, but overall I try to do one painting a day, and sometimes if I miss it in the morning, I do it at lunchtime, and it's been especially nice being at home. I've been able to really do that. My husband will always say, oh, you're on lunch break, because I'm painting something, right? So, but I don't try to make it, you know, I'm not an oil painter or an acrylic painter where, you know, I'm spending days on end to do developing. I'm trying to do something short and quick because that's like my personality. I'm really trying to, I need that moment, but I'm probably a little more impatient to be able to sit for, you know, hours on end. But, you know, it's been great for me, and I love it. And it's, I read a great article recently that said that a lot of people who are amazing at one thing usually have one hobby that they're terrible at. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's my painting. So, you know, that's kind of what I think, but they say it's a great way to kind of keep your mind balanced. And I think that's maybe I stumbled into that, but I love it. I love it. It makes me feel good. And for those of you who may have followed me on Instagram, I do every once in a while I post one of those paintings, but I'll tell you, I try to only post the ones that look good. So I wouldn't want to share all those other ones with you, but you know, every once in a while I'll post something where I was like, wow, look at me, I did this. So I try to be proud of myself when I can.
I'm sure all of them are beautiful. Definitely. So we have a couple of questions for you before we let you go today. We have started a book club in our chapter. And our wonderful member, Susanna Romig, she has chosen some amazing books for us to read. And she would like to know if you'd like to join our book club and Crew IE. And Susanna, don't be surprised if Tiffany's already read the books that we have to offer. I'm sure she probably already has.
I would love to know more about it. Yeah, and if I could make that work, but what are you reading right now?
We're taking an interest list right now, and the 3 books that we're choosing from is David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell, The Power of Meeting New People by Deborah Fine, and I keep forgetting the third one.
Fearless Leadership.
Fearless Leadership.
I haven't read Fearless Leadership, but I've read the other 2. And Malcolm Gladwell's amazing. So, I've read all his books. But yeah, let me know, because if you do Fearless Leadership, I would totally do that, because I haven't read that one yet.
Okay.
That would
All
be
right.
amazing.
Thank you. And yeah, when you were talking about audiobooks, I listened to Talking to Strangers by
Yes.
Malcolm Gladwell on audiobook. It was phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. It's, but I think reading it's a great way to just expand your perspective. And every once in a while I do post up, because I read one book a week, I usually post up, a stack of books. And I know that some of the other chapters, also there's some people on their chapters that do the same thing. So I'm happy to share with you any lists of books to favorites. I actually got a new one that I haven't. It'll be interesting to read. It's called The Courage to Be Disliked. So it'll be an interesting book to read, but I think I'm going to give it a try. So sometimes I read books too that that are way outside of my current perspective or world, because I just want to make sure that I'm seeing all sides.
Very smart, very smart. So we have another question here about convention, and convention is open for registration, but they're taking a different scope on it this year. We just got that email this morning from Christine.
Yep.
So anything interesting you can tell us about that?
Well, they just decided, obviously we're going virtual. The format and the content haven't been finalized yet. I think I think that there's some things that they've decided on, and other things they're still working on. As much as I think they did the poll, which I'm sure a lot of you participated in the poll about whether we should have convention or not. It was interesting, because I would say that it was, overwhelming. Well, it wasn't overwhelming. It was almost half and half. There were people who were willing to just go. But overall, most people prefer to do it virtually. And in reality, that came down to a lot of people, for our companies, we have mandates from our companies to not travel also, which makes sense, right? So, there's only so much we can all do. So it'll be an interesting year. I think that one thing I would say is the good part about this is that I think more people who generally aren't able to go will be able to participate this year. Because if you think about it, you'll be able to be part of some of those sessions that, that you can just log in and be a part of a session that even if it's just one session for the day, it gives you an opportunity to get a little peek into what convention is like. It's obviously, we talked about this, the power of having all the women in the room, and just that energy is obviously not going to be the same. But for those who haven't had a chance to go, or want, a little peek in kind of the content of what convention is about, it will give you that opportunity. Just like Summit that's coming up. For those of you who know, Summit's coming up here, actually, is it the week after next?
Yes, it is.
And that's also free to all members and accessible to all members. So I would say the silver lining here is, one, if you've never had a chance to go, this gives you an opportunity to join in, one, at no cost, and two, virtually. So, if you have to do, online distance learning with your kids in the morning, but you could join the afternoon session, right? So it gives you an opportunity that maybe you wouldn't have, because before, where you had to travel and you were gone from work for 2 or 3 days. So I think we should all seize that opportunity. But, obviously I don't think anyone wanted it to be this way. And I am so proud of the organization and all the chapters, how quickly everybody's pivoted to, be able to stay connected. And, just like this, like with your coffee hour. And, I think a lot of other chapters are doing a lot of amazing things online. I think we're all doing the best that we can, but as quickly as everybody pivoted, I'm just astounded by how nobody really, skipped a beat. So I think with the virtual, I think they have some time to develop the virtual format. And I'll be honest with you, I've never been to a virtual convention before, so it'll be new for all of us. So all I can say is, I think, be kind, because I think they're going to do the best that they can. I don't think it's easy for any of us, which most of you who develop these virtual onlines now, it's not easy. So I think it will be the best it can be as a virtual convention. But I do highly suggest to everybody, try to join in and be a part of it if they can.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, we have not skipped a beat in our chapter. I can tell you that, thanks to our programs committee and Pam Scamardo and what she's done, like these coffee breaks that we've done. It's been incredible. I mean, and what we've been doing with our scholarships committee for U Crew and things in our chapter, they haven't stopped. I've got the greatest board on the planet, the greatest committees on the planet. I am telling you, they just haven't quit. They come up with ideas every single day for new things, and they just implement them overnight. And now we have another successful, virtual meeting or a program or something. And it really has been beneficial for so many of us out in this area. So it's been fantastic. I'm proud of my chapter. They are just knocking it out of the park this year.
I was going to ask with because I know you've had in the past challenges with the proximity and everybody being so spread out in the Inland Empire, right? Because you're a vast region. Have you seen an uptick in participation with kind of the online format? Because I would think that a lot of people would think, oh, now I can join this because I don't have to drive an hour to get somewhere. So I was just curious if that's been working out actually in your favor as far as connection.
Believe it or not, it has in some ways definitely worked in our favor. We've been able to reach out to so many more people that we weren't able to before, just because they're not having to spend an hour, on the freeway to come to one of our luncheons or attend one of our, educational series that we're having. So it has been fantastic. We really have. We actually have increased our membership in the last 3 months. I want to say by 15 or 17 new members. It's been pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And students have been joining our chapter regularly now because we do so much outreach with the colleges locally in the Inland Empire and support them and help them find connections to find jobs and meet people and just really get them involved in our chapter, because they are our future out here in the Inland Empire, and they're our future of our chapter. And we need to make sure that we start now for everything else that we're going to see ahead of us.
Yeah, I think you guys have done a great job, and I know Pam too, just with the interconnection with the other chapters. And I think you guys did the cross chapter yoga, and just I've just been amazed at just how great the network has come together to prove our organization is a strong network. So you guys have done a great job.
Thank you. And I think you said it best, Tiffany, earlier, is that we in Crew, we all just want to help each other. So I alone could not have done the logistics of that. It just started off with just a conversation, and then people just started jumping in of like, oh, let's bring in another chapter. Let's invite someone else. Oh, how can we help? And I think that's what sets apart Crew Network or Crew chapters from any other professional organization that I've kind of gone to, is that we're all just willing to help each other out, even if it takes a phone call across the nation, like you said. And I'm with Crew San Diego or Crew whatever, new to this area, and it's like, sure, we'll clear our schedule to help you out.
Right.
We want to help a Crew sister or a Crew brother out, and I think that's what I love about. I've drank the Kool-Aid, obviously. It took a couple years to get here. I mean, started off in Crew San Diego, but I truly love what I'm doing now, and just seeing everyone here. So I know we have a couple minutes, 4 minutes left. So if any of you guys want to jump in and ask Tiffany a question, she's willing to answer any question you may have for her. And it doesn't have to be professional too. You can ask her about her, her painting or whatever you want.
Don't ask me for technique. Don't ask me technique questions. I'm not good at that yet. I'm still watching YouTube videos. My daughter's been showing me how to do that. So I'm working on that.
Tiffany, show us a painting.
Okay, you have to wait 1 second.
Good one, Jennifer.
Sorry, I had to, I have it all set up on my coffee table. So here's,
Wow.
can you see that?
They're fish. That's beautiful.
Koi.
Are they koi fish?
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, and then this will be another one I actually am proud of. I don't know if you can see it.
So I'll ask you right now, because I'm sure no one else will. Can we have a set of 3 of your postcards that we can have mounted so we can auction them off this year at our annual foundation dinner.
Absolutely. I would love that. That's
Great
thank
idea.
you. I'll definitely make sure that it's some of the good ones.
I thought what you just showed us were beautiful. I mean, for
Thank
people that are
you.
completely untalented, that is incredible. Absolutely
you.
incredible.
Thank you. I definitely would love to do that. I would be happy to contribute.
I know you missed our dinner last year. I know traffic was so horrible for you. Poor Tiffany, and I want you guys to know, she planned her entire day in her calendar around coming to our foundation dinner last year. And she calls me and she says, Norette, oh my gosh, it's going to take me 3.5 hours to get from where I am to where you are. I said, welcome to the Inland Empire.
I couldn't believe it. I even had a hotel booked because I was going to stay the night. I'd even found a place to plug my car in because, I have an electric car. I was like, I've had it all planned out. I had no idea it was going to take me that long to get up there. So I decided next time I'm actually going to work out of, our Inland Empire office that day, so hopefully, well, maybe not this year, but, if you guys, depends what the plan is, but I will definitely be there next time.
We appreciate it very much. Does anyone else have any other questions for Tiffany before we let her get on with her morning?
Thank you guys. Thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank
It
you.
was nice seeing you again.
Nice seeing
Thank
you
you,
too.
Tiffany.
And I know I've seen Jennifer earlier this week too, and Scott, good to see you. I know some of you I've met in the past, so thank you. And thank you, Norette and Pam, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. This is great. I loved it.
Well, we miss you. Take care of yourself. Thank you so much, and just stay safe.
Thank you. You too. Hi, Elizabeth. I wanted to say hi to Elizabeth. Elizabeth and I used to work together. I see you're on there. I didn't see your face, but yes.
Hi,
Nice to
I'm
see you.
at a doctor's appointment with my son.